Indonesian Central Bureau of Statistics announced that Indonesia has once again managed to record a trade surplus in December. In December of 2021, the Central Bureau of Statistics stated that Indonesia achieved a trade surplus of $1.02 billion. Now, compared to the previous year, exports increased by 35%, reaching $22.38 billion, while imports also increased by 47%, reaching $21.36 billion. And meanwhile, as per September 2021, the poverty rate in Indonesia has also declined. The Indonesian Central Bureau of Statistics recorded that in September 2021, 26.5 million people were living in poverty. This was 1 million less compared to poverty numbers both in March 2021 and in September 2020. As a result, the poverty rate as of September 2021 has declined to 9.71%, marking a return to single-digit value of the poverty rate. And to discuss more about this latest release of economic data from Indonesia, we are joined by Bhima Yudhistira, the Director of the Center of Economic and Law Studies, or CELIOS. Hi, Bhima. Thank you so much. Welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me back again.
Okay, so let's start with balance of trade first. Indonesia recorded 20 months of trade surplus in a row. What does this say about Indonesia's economic recovery? What does it reflect?
I think this is a very good story about the trade surplus, but we see some of the major factors that affecting the trade surplus within 2021 and will be going on in 2022 because we see that commodity booming is helping a lot Indonesian exporter. We have high price in the CPO. We also have high price in the coal and also the other mining commodities. And of course, there's a struggle, there's a challenges. For instance, we've seen that the variant Delta during the mid of the 2021, it's hurting Indonesian export. But still, there is a growing global demand when the economy from the US, from the China, from the Europe is demanding more coal from Indonesia, demanding CPO from Indonesia. It's helping the export surge very, very rapidly. And we also remember that this is all because of the low base effect, because we've seen the commodity price is going very, very fast between 2021 and compared with the last years. There's a growing demand when the economic recovery, when the economic began to reopening after the strict lockdown worldwide. And we see that the other interesting things is the import also low because the consumer or domestic demand still need to catch up with the Indonesian economic reopening. We still have some strict mobility policy in Indonesia, especially during the September up to November 2021 last year's. This also affecting the imported from the raw materials, also consumers, goods, product import, still in the low in terms of the demand from the consumption in the domestic household. But we see there is also change when there is a growing demand in the household during these years. We also see that there is an increase in terms of the import the industry needed, the raw materials import, also the household import products, which is we also see there's the linkage between the growing domestic demand with the increase of the consumer finished goods import from abroad. This also make it like a trade surplus will be totally different condition with the last year.
Right, so as you were mentioning, there has been an increase in domestic demand in Indonesia. And you were saying before that the Delta variant had affected exports, Indonesian exports, earlier in 2021. So in 2022, do you think Indonesia's trade surplus would maybe become less, or will there be a non-surplus in 2022?
Yeah, it could be a deficit, yeah, in these years, yeah. Or
deficit.
it could be surplus, but yeah, the surplus is little bit lower compared with the last years because several factors. The first, the super cycle commodity booming. No one understand and no one can predict exactly is the oil price is still going above 80 US dollar per barrel up to end of the 2022. And also we see the impact of the some growing Omicron variant is also impacting the supply chain disruption in various commodity in various logistic chain all over the world. And the third factor is related to the new game changing in terms of the strict standardization coming from the developed countries. For instance, they apply ESG, environment, social governance standard. So not all product can pass this standard. So they won't buy, for instance, the product that say having a very high emission carbon can damage in the environment. So this kind of the standard also can be a backlash for Indonesian export as we remain strongly tied to the commodity and also product related to the commodity. So we must to ensure that Indonesian product, whether we're talking about coal, and then we talking about the CPO or the other plantation product, we must set the highest standard in terms of the environment. So we can pass up to export more quickly and we can broaden our market abroad.
All right, now there's one more question about balance of trade that I want to ask you. Of course, trade surplus was the highest in 5 years in 2021 throughout 2021. Are you saying that we just got lucky because of the super cycle, the price of commodities is up, or has Indonesia done something different to ensure that trade surplus was, the highest in 5 years, 20 months in a row? Is the world demanding our products, more of our products?
This manufacturer combination, if you say about the luck, yes. We are lucky from the super cycle commodity. We've not seen the commodity booming in the last 5 or 6 years, perhaps. But we also see some interesting figures. For instance, the composition of the industrial product going export is increased. And right now the position is 76% of total exported product in Indonesia. That's a good news to tell to the public, to the government, that we need to increase the industrialization. We need to increase the high-tech product compared with the total export. So we are not rely too much with this lack of the commodity booming. So there is also achievement in terms of the value-added industry export. And also we hope this is also increasing trend. The world is going to digital. They need many raw materials coming from Indonesia. They need many industrial product, for instance, the high-tech electronic industries product, or also the new automotive sectors that rely more in the high-tech system, for instance. So this is all new product, new kind of things that we need to catch up so we can reduce our commodity sectors that is too volatile to follow, and then we can move to more value-added and high-tech product onwards.
Okay, now let's talk about poverty rate as well, because the BPS, Central Bureau of Statistics, also recorded that poverty rate in Indonesia has declined as per September 2021. It went down to 9.71% from the previous 10.19% in September 2020. So can you explain to us, how was this possible in the middle of the pandemic, the poverty rate in Indonesia declining down to single digits?
I relay more first about the poverty correlation with the job opening. So there is like a number of jobless also being declined, many unemployment rate going to decline, because when the economy is going to reopen from the strict mobility, of course, small, medium enterprise employ more household workers, and also the big company in terms of the industry, they begin to employ more, and then they begin to increase the shift of the current workers. So this is also good to hear that when the economy come back, the poverty reduction is quite good. Even though we have some challenge, if we compare the poverty rate with the last year in 2009, which is in September, it's still the poverty rate right now is still quite higher compared with the pre-pandemic level. So we need a lot of homework to do from the government, for instance, how to increasing social assistance program, how to make sure that the people that getting the social assistance program in terms of the cash transfer, in terms of the food coupon or food subsidies, the data is exactly the same with the household data or with the current government identification data. So we want to push the government so they can combining social assistance database with the nomor induk kependudukan or civilian identification number. So they can have exact same data to verify and to make a process of social assistance faster than before.
Right, so as you're saying, there's still some things that still need to be done in order to maintain poverty rate at a low rate. But do you think in 2022 the poverty rate will continue to decline to pre-pandemic figures, or will factors like inflation and such be a problem in 2022?
Yeah, you're very right. Yeah, if you're talking about the poverty, this is also including some new challenges in terms of the inflation. The inflation rate is going to surge. The food price and the fuel price, gas, electricity price, they need to be stabilized. So therefore, this is the government policy that matters in these years, how to maintain the price stability. And if you see the structure of the consumption in the poor household in Indonesia, poorer the household, they tend to consume more food, which is right now around 73% of their total consumption is based on the food. So 1% increase in the food price, they become vulnerable to become a more poor household. So there's the government tax to give social assistance, of course, but how to maintain price stability, I think that's a more important tax to do in the near terms. I think in the first quarter, this will be very, very important job to do to ensure the price stability and how job reopening can declining the poverty rate faster. Then we can see that there is a strong and solid economic recovery in terms of the middle class and then lower society in Indonesia.
Okay, Bhima, just one quick question. We have about a minute or less left now. The Genie ratio in Indonesia also declined in 2021. Do you believe that the wealth gap in Indonesia has shrunk recently in this country, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think this is like some dilemma in Indonesian statistics. What I want to say is the Gini ratio using by the Indonesian Statistic Bureau or BPS is using expenditures to measure the inequality of the wealth. Meanwhile, the other statistic we must compare, they measure the total of the asset. So it's like a different measurements, but we see that if we're using measurement only in terms of the expenditure, we see the wealth gap is declining. The Gini ratio decline. But if we compare with the number of assets, for instance, research from the Credit Suisse said that during the pandemic, there is 65,000 new rich people coming from Indonesia, and it's also widening the wealth gap in terms of the asset, in terms of the net worth. So a different statistic or methodology, I would say that, of course, there is a huge increase in terms of the inequality, but not in terms of expenditure, but more in terms of the asset or financial asset that circulate in Indonesia. That's we need to take care of.
Okay, Bhima Yudhistira, point taken. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure having you here on the show. Bhima Yudhistira, Director of the Center of Economic and Law Studies. Thanks for your insights.